Hi, Chuck Huber here for the Stata YouTube channel. Today I'd like to show you how to do pairwise comparisons with the pwcompare command. So I'm going to start by fitting a linear regression model, and I'm just going to type it directly in here. So I'm going to type regress bpsystol for systolic blood pressure, and then I want to include the predictor variable healthstat, if I can spell that correctly. And I'm also going to add the option base levels, just so we can see all the levels of health status. So I fit my regression model and I see 5 coefficients here. Excellent, or 5 categories that gives me coefficients in the output. Excellent, very good, good, fair, and poor. So what if I wanted to see all possible pairwise comparisons of these? So maybe I'd like to see a comparison of poor versus fair. For instance, the poor coefficient minus fair. That looks like it'd be about 2, 1.7, somewhere in there, 1.6. So I'd like to compare all possible pairwise comparisons among these coefficients. You could do that manually, but it would be very tedious. So let's go under Statistics and scroll way down to the bottom and select Post Estimation here at the bottom. And I'm going to move this over some so I can see my output. And I'm going to click or expand where it says Test, Contrast, and Comparisons. I'm going to expand that and then double click on Pairwise Comparisons here. And that will open the pwcompare dialog box. So in the main tab, I'm going to select healthstat as my factor variable to compute the pairwise comparisons for, and then I'm going to click Submit to run this. So if I move the dialog box here, I can see all possible comparisons. So the very good versus excellent, the difference in those means is 2.98, all the way down to poor versus fair, that difference is 1.70. So it gives us all possible pairwise comparisons of those coefficients or cell means. It's actually comparing the cell means. And so it also gives me an unadjusted confidence interval. If I wanted to see the t-statistic and p-value, I can come over here and click on the Reporting tab and check this box next to Specify Additional Tables. And then I want to check this box here that says Show Effects Table with Confidence Intervals and p-values. So let's move this. Let's click Submit. And move this over, and now my table includes, well, we can almost see the whole thing here. So now my table includes the contrast, standard errors, t-statistic, p-value, as well as the confidence intervals. Okay, now I've computed a lot of p-values there, so I may want to adjust for multiple comparisons. And there are a variety of ways you can do that. If we go back to the main tab and click under multiple comparisons, there are lots of different methods for doing this adjustment. Bonferroni is a popular, probably one of the oldest methods. It's a little on the conservative side, but let's just try that one. So if I select Bonferroni method and click Submit, what that will do now is adjust the p-value as well as the confidence intervals. So the p-values will get a little bit larger and the confidence intervals will get a little bit wider. Okay? Now, one of the fun things about pairwise comparisons is I can do this in the context of the margins command. So if I come back to the Post Estimation selector, I can select pairwise comparisons of margins. So if I double click that, now again I can select health status in the main tab as my factor variable term. And I'm going to click Submit and move this over, and the output is going to look pretty much the same. But what this allows me to do then is I can, in fact, if we want to come over here, we could specify additional tables like we did before, but we're not going to mess with that here. What I can do after I run margins, the command is going to be margins healthstat, pwcompare. What I can then do is plot the results. So if I close or collapse tests and expand marginal effects, estimated means, and so forth, here at the bottom of that submenu, I can select profile plots after marginal analysis. So let's move this over, double click that. And once again, we're going to select the variables that define the x-axis. So this time it isn't health stat, it's going to be _pw. So select _pw, and that will show all of the pairwise comparisons. So we're going to have to do a couple of things, but I want to just walk you through it because the graph is going to look a little strange at first. So if I click Submit, it plots those pairwise comparisons, but it's going to show the comparisons on the y-axis and the comparisons on the horizontal axis. It's a little easier to read if you swap those. So I can check this box that says swap the x and y axes. So click Submit. And that makes it a little bit easier to read. Now let's get rid of those connecting lines. So if I go click on the plot tab, I can change connected to scatter and click submit. What that will do is remove all of those connecting lines, so it makes it a little bit easier to read. If we wanted to, we could add a reference line at the 0 point in here. So I'm going to click on reference lines and click add line to the graph at the x-axis, and I'm going to add that at 0, and I could customize it if I want to, but I'm going to add that. So now I have a reference line at 0, so that would be no difference in between them, and we can see a couple of the confidence intervals actually cross that reference line there. Now what about the labels here? Here they're labeled 4 versus 5, 3 versus 5, and so forth. If you wanted to, you could actually label these clearly. So if we go back to I think it's under options. Let's look. Yeah, so let me show you. I did that kind of quickly. If we go to the main tab right next to variables that define the x-axis and click options, here where it says list of enumerated labels, I'm going to type 1, and I happen to know that the first one here at the bottom is comparing very good versus excellent. So I can type in a label for that, very good versus excellent, put that in double quotes and click submit. And now that will label that with the words rather than with the numbers. And I could do that for each of these groups. I could come back in and add a 2. That'll be the second one from the bottom. And that would be good versus excellent. And I could go in and type that for all of them. That would be easier to do in the do file editor. Anyway, so that's how you could then plot these and label them clearly. So that's how you can do pairwise comparisons. I hope this was helpful. Thanks for stopping by.